Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, these guys are still a relatively new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves, particularly in the last few years. And if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are pretty solid all round, but they're probably best known for their different kinds of IPAs, and they're one of the Japanese breweries that I would say are quite up and coming and definitely worth trying if you haven't done so already. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is one of their latest releases as of the time of filming, which is October 2025. It's a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before, a style that you don't find all that often actually, but one that I really do quite like, and I'm very excited to try this one for you here on the channel. So yeah, hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Japan. We are going to go to Wakayama Prefecture, which is a bit kind of to the south of Osaka, and to be specific, we are going to go to a town called Aridagawa, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Nomcraft Brewing. So this particular beer is called Last Man Standing. It comes in at 8.5% ABV, and this one is an Imperial Red IPA. So yeah, this one I think should be really interesting. I love a red IPA. You really don't come across these all that often, so it was a nice surprise that when I went to visit Nomcraft's tap room, they actually had one of these, and a lot of people have told me this is a really quite nice beer. And I will admit, it was a struggle to avoid drinking this one in the tap room because I wanted to get a can and review it for you guys here on the channel as well. So yeah, this one I think will be awesome. So let's crack on and see what this beer has in store for us. The Last Man Standing, an Imperial Red IPA from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa in Wakayama Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Nomcraft Brewing before, and we will definitely be adding more to that list at some point in the near future. I've got another 2 cans to try from these guys quite soon, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's been added to quite regularly, of course, because I'm over there often to visit my son, and we do get quite a good selection of Japanese beers here in Hong Kong as well. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Nomcraft Brewing once again then. So, Nomcraft Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Aridagawa in Wakayama Prefecture, just a bit to the south of Osaka, and the company was founded by a local consortium of investors. So, 2 of the important guys in the startup are the Americans Adam Baran and Ben Emmerich. So Adam originally studied communications in Chicago, but upon his graduation he decided to head to Japan in 2011 to work as an English teacher and have a little bit of an adventure. But it was there that he befriended Ben, who was a craft beer enthusiast and a fellow English teacher, and together they would go and explore the craft beer bars of Osaka and the wider Kansai region and attend the different festivals, which were really just kind of starting up at that time. A few years later though, they began to wonder whether they could create their own business out of their passion for craft beer, and so they pondered the idea of a bar, but then eventually settled on the idea of having their own brewery. After a while though, they quit their English teaching jobs and headed back to the US in 2017 to build a strategy and gain some experience in the industry. Adam earned his qualification as a certified Cicerone and worked in a number of tap rooms around Chicago, while Ben returned to his hometown of Portland in Oregon to hone his home brewing skills and gain some experience brewing in a number of different breweries. And of course, these guys, if we're talking Chicago and we're talking Portland, those are 2 very, very good beer towns, you know, very good place to gain some experience. But apparently Ben had a chance encounter with members of the Aridagawa Machizukuri, or the Development Council as it would be in English, at a Portland fair, and that was held at the Hanshin department store in Osaka. But they apparently had been looking at Portland as a case study for how to develop a local economy and attract outside visitors, and they apparently had the slogan "Keep Aridagawa Weird." But this of course led to the customary exchange of business cards, as you often see in Japan, and then Ben and Adam later reached out to them to inquire about grants for startup companies, and things just kind of went from there. So Morimoto from the council directed their attention toward a dormant nursery school site which had been earmarked for a craft beer tap room, but they suggested to Adam and Ben that they could come to Wakayama and run a brewery in Aridagawa. But during this stage, Takumi Kaneko came into the fold. He's originally from Aichi Prefecture, sort of Nagoya area, and he met the council in Portland during his backpacking days. But this prompted him to go and visit Aridagawa, and he started working picking tangerines and then building furniture in Morimoto's workshop. But his skill in speaking English saw him added to the team as a brewer and a creative marketer. But another addition during the planning stages was Gareth Williams, who was a long-term resident of the area and often attended the council meetings. But his children once attended the nursery in which the brewery is located, but he participated in the building of the brewery and eventually became the sales representative of the company, and he's still there today. But by 2019, Ben and Adam were back in Japan with an operational brewery. The equipment was acquired from a brewery up in Iwate, who gave them some brewer-led guidance before the equipment was then shipped down to Wakayama, and they also received a lot of help from the Kansai brewing community in getting the brewery up and running. But the brewery debuted its beers at the 2019 Craft Beer Live Festival in Osaka, but unfortunately the COVID pandemic kind of forced them to shift their focus to cans and bottles very, very quickly, but that actually worked out quite well for them. In 2022 though, Ben left the company to join Open Air Brewing up in Kobe, and so Adam stepped into the role of head brewer, and Junya Nakamura joined the brewing team at this time as well. But over the last few years, they've continued to develop new recipes and build up their sales and distribution, and they've also been experimenting with gin and seltzer from what I understand as well. But next door to the brewery is the Golden River Tap Room and Restaurant, which shares a common investor with the brewery, and so that is where you can try a number of the Nomcraft beers fresh at source. But these days, they've got a tap room in the Juso area of Osaka, and they're apparently working on a new tap room in Wakayama City as well, which I'm told will open in the next couple of months. We're filming this one in October 2025, of course. But yeah, like I said, over the last few years, these guys have been working to get their beers out there a little bit more. They've built up a very, very good reputation, particularly for their IPAs, and as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 275 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Nomcraft Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd, and you can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. Rate Beer now is unfortunately dead. But yeah, that's that for your history section of the video. Let's go on and actually talk about the beer itself. So as I mentioned to you earlier, this one is an 8.5% Imperial Red IPA, a style that I love but you just don't come across all that often anymore. And this one apparently is, I think it's considered a collaboration, but it was brewed as Nomcraft's contribution to the Gifu Beer Festival, which was themed around the Battle of Sekigahara, which is where, that I believe was one of the great battles in the unification of Japan. That was where Totoyomi Ieyasu kind of, if I remember correctly, was it Totoyomi, or no, it was the formation of the Tokugawa shogunate, which I think was Totoyomi Ieyasu. That was one of the big battles. This was the biggest battle, of course, in that kind of Japanese feudal war, if you like, and one that really resulted helped result in the unification of Japan, which was 1603 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, basically for the Gifu Beer Festival, the breweries were split into Western Army and Eastern Army, and Nomcraft were asked to do a beer to represent General Hiratsuka Tamehiro of the Western Army, who I think, if I remember rightly, he was on the losing side of that battle. So yeah, they chose to make an Imperial Red IPA, and I believe this one is Gareth's recipe, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's a wee bit of stuff about the beer. Hopefully that made sense. but yeah, I think it is pretty nice. I'll need to go and read a little bit more about this guy's story after this, but yeah, a tribute to Hiratsuka Tamihiro of the Western Army. But yeah, the artwork on this one, I have to say, is lovely. I might need to keep this can actually, because I think the artwork on it's pretty epic, and as I say, you don't come across an Imperial Red IPA all that often, but you can see on the bottom there is the Gifu Beer Festival symbol, so this one is kind of considered a collaboration with them. There you can see the Nomcraft Brewing symbol as well. And yeah, it looks very, very nice, this one. So plain silver top on the can there. This can incidentally is 355 millilitres, which is a common measurement in Japan. The hops used in this beer are Chinook, Mosaic, Strata and Riwaka. We know all of these quite well. All of them are American hops, apart from Riwaka. Chinook is about 14% alpha acid. It's going to give you that big grapefruity and kind of piney resin character. The Mosaic is 14% alpha acid, a little bit of distinctive earthiness to it, but a good tangerine orangey character. Strata is about 14, oh no, I think Strata is 14% alpha acid, and it gives you this slightly melony kind of strawberry character. Riwaka is your New Zealand hop. That one comes in, if I remember correctly, about 5 or 6% alpha acid, but it's got quite a limey and sort of grapefruity character to it, quite a high oil content actually. So yeah, quite an interesting combination of hops in this one. I think we can get this guy out into the glass though and just see what it's all about. So yeah, an 8.5% Imperial Red IPA. I think this one will be pretty nice. The can was pretty solid actually, even though it had been in the fridge for quite a wee while. So yeah, let's just get this guy out and see how it's going to behave. It looks as if it's behaving all right actually, in fairness. So yeah, we can put the rest of this in there. So yeah, but a fair bit of carbonation on that, and I didn't give it too aggressive a pour, I would have said. So yeah, anyway, now that we've got the full thing out, you can see that it's poured with just a little bit over a finger, maybe a finger and a half actually, of a frothy, I would say light kind of fawn coloured head there. If I bring that up to the camera, you can see medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, some foamier ones the further up that you go. But yeah, the head on this one looks great. In terms of colour, if we shine the light through this, it's actually, I mean, it's a very deep blood orange colour, but to you guys, I think it's looking a little bit more like a kind of dark copper. I think it's just because of the light behind me, but this one, yeah, it's a very, very sort of dark copper colour that you're getting out of this one. And if we shine the light through it, it's not really clear. It's actually got quite a little bit of natural haze to it, this beer, so maybe there's a little touch of wheat or oat in this one, but yeah, we'll just need to see. In any case, the colour of this one is pretty much what you would expect from the style. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style umbrella, if we can call it that. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one, but we did see it had quite a big head on it, this beer, when we brought it out. So yeah, and honestly, I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about the appearance of this beer. So let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's going to give us. I'm really looking forward to this. As I say, it was quite a struggle to avoid trying this one at the tap room in Juso, because I was very, very curious as soon as I saw Imperial Red Ale. But yeah, so aroma wise, for me, this one, it's lovely. It gives you everything you would want from this style. You've got those big oily fruity characters out of it. You've got a mix of like chewy caramel and brown bread in the malt base, and then yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of danker green component to it. So yeah, I think when we actually taste this is going to be lovely. But yeah, yeah, I think this is awesome. I could sit and smell that all day, but that's not the point of the video. We should go through the aroma and just break it up a wee bit and describe it for you more in depth. So let's get started on that. The backbone of this beer, absolutely, it's got this lovely kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust to it. So yeah, fresh wholemeal brown bready bread crust in there. A wee bit of a Yeah, got a wee hair in my mouth there. It's got a wee bit of a kind of woody character to it, some crackery notes as you very often get, and the malty backbone in this one. There's absolutely a mix of kind of sweet rye bread in the base there, but I don't think there's rye malt in this one, to be honest with you. That would surprise me a little bit. So it smells like there's a wee bit of rye bready character to it, but yeah, lovely sweet wholemeal brown bread, you know, German pumpernickel bread or something like that. I do miss the German bakeries from when I lived there. But yeah, rye bread, wholemeal brown bread. I do actually get a little bit of a more white bready character out of this beer as well, that said. And I do think there might be a little touch of wheat in this one. I have to say that because I can just smell a slightly denser white bready character coming out of this beer. So yeah, there's something telling me there, and just the appearance of it as well makes me think there might be a little touch of wheat in this one. Now the old school Imperial Reds and Red Ales and stuff didn't tend to have, it wasn't uncommon to use a little touch of wheat or a little touch of oat in these things to get the mouthfeel that you wanted, but primarily these beers would rely on barley malt rather than wheated malts, malty wheat or malty oats. But yeah, you can smell a slightly denser and smooth white bready character in there, but on top of that, you absolutely have a lovely bit of brown sugar in here. Yeah, I love the big chewy brown sugary West Coast IPAs, and that's one of the reasons why I love the Imperial Reds as well. So for me, there's a little bit of, there's definitely a little bit of toasty caramel coming out of this one, so you can get that in there. So lovely toasty caramel. There's a slightly leathery brown sugary character to this one as well, but that's very, very mild. And yeah, you've got lovely big oily sweet caramelly notes coming out of this one, and I do get just a little hint of nuttiness pushing its way out of this beer as well. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in this one, I think, is really quite nice. The brown sugars in this one are the brown sugars in this one are absolutely great. So yeah, all in all, the way that this beer goes together on the malty side of things is right up my street. So just take a little bit of time to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck into it. The yeasty side of the beer as well is lovely. I mean, you do get a little bit more of a grainy rye bread out of this one, so you've got a bit of a grainy rye bread in there, a more wholemeally brown bready character as well, and then yeah, it's got a little bit of a fresh white bready, no, a little bit more of a brown bready bread crust and a wee bit of crackery character coming out of the yeast too. But for the most part, this beer is actually quite, yeah, I would say that it's very brown bready, very, very, and it's got lovely kind of sweet character coming out of it as well. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really nice in this one. It gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, all in all, I think the way this one goes together is really quite nice. So yeah, absolutely take that bit of time and just enjoy that malty and yeasty character in this one, because you won't come across that too often these days. But let's move on to the hoppy side of the beer then. So for me, the hoppy side of this one, the more that I smell of it, it's not madly deep and dank actually, it's more leaning toward that juicier, fruity side of things. But yeah, it's important to remember that when you brew an IPA, there are three types of hoppings that you can do. There's early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you the vast majority of your bitterness and a deeper, danker green component. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the latter half hour or so of your wort boil. That gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, which is all about flavour and aroma, and again, it gives you a very bright green component. So yeah, the way that red IPAs tend to be, they can be a mix actually, but when it comes to hopping, West Coast IPAs tended to use all three types of hopping, which is why they were deeper, danker, more oily and more bitter, and New England IPAs tended to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're kind of softer and more juicy. This beer, I think, has a little bit of early addition hopping, but is mostly late addition and dry hopping, because the green component has got a little bit of dankness to it, but not overly much. And out of the hops in this one, it would be Chinook would be the one you would choose for your early addition hopping to get that kind of pine resin-y character, of course. But yeah, for me, the green component in this one, it's got a little touch of earthiness to it. I do get a little bit of pine resin in there, but mostly it's a very bright, floral aromatic character that comes out of this beer. And then yeah, there's a lovely kind of fresh, zesty sort of grassy character coming out of this one, which I think is absolutely lovely. So that gets a big thumbs up from me as well. Yeah, all in all, the way that the green component goes together in this one is pretty nice, I have to say, but more leafy and grassy actually than I thought it would have been. But let's focus on the fruity side of things then, just to round off our look at the aroma of this beer. So yeah, fruity side of this one for me, I do get a little touch of the grapefruit from the Riwaka and from the Chinook in this one, but there's a little bit of an almost kind of there's almost a little bit of peary character to this, and I can certainly get the melon from the Strata. That seems to be sitting further back on the fruity side of things. The candied kind of strawberry that Strata can give you, I'm absolutely getting that, and so a little bit of the lime as well. The orange, I think, for me, the more and more that I smell of it though, the orange, the oily tangerine orange from the Mosaic is what kind of builds out of this one. Was there Centennial in this as well? No, there wasn't. Yeah, so Chinook, Mosaic, Strata and Riwaka, yeah. Kind of makes sense in that regard. The melon and the strawberry from the Strata really show up quite early on, but I think it takes a wee bit of time for the tangerine orange of the Mosaic to kind of come out, in all honesty. And the melon from the Strata I think is quite prominent in this, and a wee bit of lime as well actually. Yeah, the way that goes together, the way the fruity character in this one goes together is quite unique for this style, I would think. I don't think I've had a red IPA before that's had quite this mix of fruits in it. But yeah, absolutely, it smells great, and I'm just very curious to try this one now. So as I said earlier, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck into it, but I think it is about time for us to taste this beer and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Last Man Standing, an 8.5% Imperial Red IPA, I should say, sorry, from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa, Wakayama Prefecture in Japan. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, Skål, cheers, Kampai. Oh yeah, that is nice. I'm going to say that straight away. I do like this one. It's got a really nice balance to it. You've got a lovely balance between the more kind of bready side of this beer and the kind of more chewy, caramelly notes in the malt base there. So really well balanced in that regard, and it does give you a wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste as well. But yeah, the fruity side of this one as well is lovely and oily, and then yeah, you also have that lovely how would we say, you've just got that lovely kind of slightly dank green component building in this one the further that you go into the aftertaste. So yeah, gives you everything you would want from this style, but I do suspect there's a little touch of wheat and a little touch of oat in this one, or potentially one or the other. But yeah, I'm going to just say massive thumbs up to Nomcraft Brewing. Like I say, these guys are very, very good in that IPA style umbrella, so give their stuff a go and just see what you think. But let's break this beer down then and describe it for you properly in depth, as we always do. We'll start on the middle third of your palate then. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely, smooth, wholemeal, brown bready character coming out of the beer. So yeah, fresh brown bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woody character coming out of the beer. So yeah, fresh brown bready bread crust in there, a little bit of woody character in there, Jacob's cream cracker, as we say, and yeah, I really like that about this one. The backbone of this beer does give you that little bit of dryness into the aftertaste. So fresh brown bread crust, a little bit of wood, a little bit of cracker. Then you have a more dense, sweet kind of rye bready layer coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that that goes together is nice as well. So you get that sweeter, dense, more rye bready character. The next layer up is like a more fluffy and still quite sweet wholemeal brown bready note, and I think above that there's just a kind of thinner layer of fresh fluffy white bread in there. But yeah, the bready character in this one's got a lovely sweetness to it, and a lovely little bit of smoothness as well. But it does get slightly sweeter, I think, into the aftertaste as the brown sugars come out, and there's maybe a tiny little touch of nuttiness just mixing in with those bready layers. So rye bread, wholemeal brown bread, fluffier white bread, and I do suspect there might just be a little bit of wheaty character in there as well, because you can feel it's a little bit smoother further. The next layer up from that white bread is a slightly more dense white bready character. It feels smoother further forward, and it's just a little touch more bitey further back. So I do think there's a little touch of wheat in there. But the next layer up is where the brown sugary character starts. So I think above the bread you've got this slight layer of like toasty brown sugar, and then you get that kind of oval circle type shape in the middle of your palate there. So above the toasty brown sugar, you can feel in the dead centre of your palate you've got the straight up sweet boozy kind of caramel coming out of this one. It's a little bit fudgy almost just around that, then the very edge of that oval is a bit more kind of like McVitie's digestive biscuit. So yeah, the brown sugars have got a nice little bit of depth to them, I would say, and I think that that goes together very, very well. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in the malty side of this beer, I think, is great, and that's the key thing when it comes to these Imperial Red IPAs. So that's us covered the middle third of your palate then, quite in depth. Let's go to the back third of your palate, and as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, again you get this kind of bready build up in there. You've got the rye bread in the base, the kind of wholemeal brown bread in the middle, then the more white bready and slightly wheaty characters on top. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got, you can feel the bread crusty characters in there, which is a little bit lighter and more, yeah, you can feel it's got a little bit of a drier, how would we say, a little bit of a kind of drier, more grainy character to it. Then you can say the same about the cracker above that. The rye bready sort of layer feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy than the wholemeal brown bready character that sits above that. Again, is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy than the fluffy white bready character that's in there is again just a little bit lighter, taller and more airy as well. And all three of those layers just have a little bit more kind of dryness to them, but you can feel there's just a little touch of the more dense wheaty white bready, what I suspect is wheat, just creeping over the top of that. It's got a wee bit of bitiness and zip to it, and some of the kind of toastier sides of the brown sugar. But then above everything else, you've got the yeasty character coming out of the beer. So let's just focus on that yeastiness for the moment. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, at its core, it feels like quite a sweet but quite dense wholemeal brown bread. As you move further out from that, it feels like a more kind of buttery, like a more buttery mix of white and brown bread, and then the very edge of it is a bit like a slightly toasty, bread crusty character thing. So you can feel that just sitting on top of everything else on the yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty character that sits there on top of everything else in the back third of your palate just adds a wee bit more depth of flavour, and you can feel, yeah, the back third of your palate, the flavour is absolutely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of compresses down and it squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, all in all, the way that goes together is really, really nice in this one. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, the green component in this beer is kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops, but I don't find it overly dank and bitter. It builds a wee bit into the aftertaste right enough, but it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, this one. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness there, which is going to come from the mosaic. As you move further forward, it's a little touch woody. There's a wee bit of pine resin in the back there, which is from the Chinook in this one. But yeah, as you reach the kind of front corners of your palate, it's a little bit more sort of floral and aromatic, and it's got that wee touch of, there's a wee touch of spice to it. But then yeah, round the front curve of your palate, it's just a little bit lighter, more grassy, and more kind of zesty, if you like. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. So yeah, green component in this one, the more that I drink of it, the more kind of leafy and kind of grassy and zesty it becomes. But I think that suits it, and it suits the kind of fruity side of the beer as well. So let's round off our kind of tasting notes, if you like, with a look at that front third of your palate. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, bready build up in there, the kind of rye bready character in the base, the wholemeal brown bready character in the middle, then the white bready character just sitting on top of that. The base of that front third of your palate is the kind of brown bready bread crust. The Jacob's cream cracker sits on top of that, and then yeah, you've got the more, you've got the more the rye bready character, the wholemeal brown bread, the white bread, and a bit of the smoother side of the wheat. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out the beer. So let's have a little look at that fruity side of things then. So if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you absolutely get a little bit of the grapefruit. That's the Riwaka and the Chinook that are going to give you that. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, from the grapefruit, you definitely get the kind of melony type quality from the strata. So it's grapefruit, melon, then as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, there's a little touch of an almost apricot-y type note in there. But then yeah, as you come further forward from that, you get that big oily tangerine orange in the front half of the front third of your tongue, which is from the mosaic, and you've got that nice kind of limey character just sitting behind the sort of just sitting behind that front tip of your tongue as well. So yeah, the way that that pieces together is really nice. But sitting on top of everything else on that front half of the front third of your palate is the juicy kind of strawberry character coming out of the beer. So yeah, that juicy strawberry note that comes out from the strata in this one, I think is absolutely great, and that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the further into the aftertaste that you go, it's the tangerine orange that lingers there, along with that sort of strawberry, along with that sort of strawberry, that strawberry note from the strata. And yeah, there's a wee bit of zestiness, I think, from the lime to that as well. So yeah, interesting mix of fruity character in this one, but I think it does go together very, very well. But it's a lovely Imperial Red, this one of the smoother ones that I've had actually, and one of the more kind of bready leaning ones too, but definitely not the most bitter, in fact. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour profile section of this video, and we can round off the review with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, yeah, I would describe this one as top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. That helps kind of accentuate the bready flavours that the beer has. But it has that kind of element of what I call Japanese cleanliness. You know, it's a volcanic island, very, very good quality water, but the Japanese also have this opinion about beer, which is that it should be very, very drinkable, and that is, you'll find that in a lot of beers, craft beers over there. Regardless of what style it is, you'll always have that kind of clean element to it, because it should be drinkable, and you can certainly get that in this one. In terms of the IBU in this beer, I think this one's maybe about 50 or 60 IBU. I think beyond 60 I feel would be a little bit of a push for this one, But yeah, it is, you know, the bitterness in this one does build a wee bit into the aftertaste, but for the most part I find it quite smooth and quite zesty in a way. But yeah, the malt base, a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, then you've got that drier sweetness on top, and the fruity side of this one is a lovely mix of kind of citrusy and kind of juicy character, I would say, but a very unique fruity component to this one compared to other beers that I've had in this particular style category. But yeah, one of the smoother and more bready leaning Imperial Red IPAs that I've had from what I can think of. There's not too many of these beers about, but I always enjoy them when they do make their appearance. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This one was the Last Man Standing, an 8.5% Imperial Red IPA from the wonderful Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa in Wakayama Prefecture in Japan. This beer I hope they do again, because it is pretty damn good. It would be a shame for this to just simply be a one-off. Maybe they can make it a seasonal or something like that, like a winter IPA. This one would be great as a winter IPA, I think, just because it's got that bigger boozy hit to it and the big brown sugary component. So maybe that's an idea for them going forward. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nomcraft Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future, because I've got 2 more cans to work my way through from them in 2 quite different beer styles actually, so I'm curious to see how they do on that note. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out Nomcraft Brewing social media, and do give me any other Imperial Red recommendations that you so happen to have. But thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in another review very, very shortly. Ciao just now, and Kampai.